Hi, welcome to another episode of How to Do Atkins Low Carb. My name is, of course, Kent Altena, and I'd like to deal with a question that I got in response to one of my other videos. Let me read it. I've been on the Atkins Diet now for 20 days, and I've only lost about 4 pounds, and that being mainly in the first week. I'm sticking to 20 to 25 grams of carbs per day, drinking about 2.5 liters of water, and I do bodybuilding 3 days per week. I don't know why I'm not losing the weight, and I'm nearly given up on it today, but we'll give it to the end of the week, and it's very frustrating. Any advice? Well, I'd like to respond to that today on why would you not be losing weight on the low carb diet? Sorry for the change of clothing, but I got called out for an EMS call, so now that I've returned to making the video, the question is the first question we have to answer, is it really a stall? And a stall or a plateau is defined by a lengthy period of time in which you are not losing weight, and additionally, you aren't losing any inches of measurement. So if the scales haven't been responding to you, or even better, before you even get into that position, start taking your measurements. A stall is usually defined by a period of 4 weeks or greater in which you have not seen any weight loss or change in measurements. Some weight loss experts even won't call it a stall until you've reached 3 months of no losses. For everything else prior to this, we could probably call that a plateau. And you can probably expect to reach 4 to 8 plateaus during your weight loss, depending upon how much weight you have to lose. These plateaus are a body's way of adjusting to the new composition of fat to fluids, fat to muscle, lean to fat body mass. As you lose fat, the water rushes in to redistribute itself to prevent the body from undergoing large shape changes and to take up the slack. It's basically your body attempting to compensate for the water weight. What does this mean? Don't panic if the scale stops responding to you and the downward descent suspends itself temporarily. Keep with your diet and don't alter with what has been successful so far. You haven't lost any weight for 4 weeks, and you've been measuring yourself, and you know that you haven't lost any inches. Your clothes don't feel any looser, and you're wondering why that is. Why has the diet that's been so successful for you been neglecting you with any sort of feedback recently? Well, the number one reason why I believe that this might be the case is too many carbs. This happens for 2 reasons. Either people tend to underestimate the amount of carbs that they may be losing and underestimate the portion sizes that they may be eating for the related carb impact of that food, or 2, there may be hidden carbs. The CCLL, the critical carb level for losing, is different for each and every person. Some people may be able to eat up to 80 grams of carbs per day and still continue losing just as they did during the induction period. However, some people may be more metabolically resistant to eating carbs and may have to restrict their levels to 40, 30, or even 20 grams per day. Their insulin sensitivity may be just simply more reactive to higher level of carbs. The point is that you need to determine this number for yourself by trial and error, most likely during the ongoing weight loss period of the diet. The first reason, as I said, for underestimating the amount of carbs that you may be eating is the serving size may be abnormally small, such as with Crystal Light, in which the serving size is only 8 fluid ounces. Well, that 8 fluid ounces, if you're like myself, may not be enough for you, and you might be drinking much higher amount. You might drink up to 32 or 64 ounces of Crystal Light per day, which is much higher than is reflected. And that leads into the second half of the question, are hidden carbs. You may be tracking the amount accurately, but the manufacturers may hide carbs inside the product by not reporting fractions of carbs in the amount. I'll give you an example. Crystal Light reports itself as having 5 calories per serving. Well, that serving size is only 8 fluid ounces, like I said. Well, if you can read this, you'll read that it has 0 grams of fat, 0 grams of carbohydrates, and 0 grams of protein. Well, that leaves me to question, where does that 5 calories come from? Well, the answer is probably a hidden carb. It's a portion of a carb plus maybe perhaps a protein. If you read the ingredients, the second ingredient on there is maltodextrin, which is a complex carbohydrate. So if you're drinking Crystal Light, you may want to include 1 gram of carb per serving, which for a tub which has 8 servings in it would make it at least 8 net grams of carbs per tub. Here's another example. Grated Parmesan cheese. We take this, and the number of calories per serving, which is 2 teaspoons, is 25 calories. The number of total fat is 1.5 grams. Well, 1.5 grams times 9, which is the number of calories per gram of fat, is 13.5 grams. It also reports itself as having 2 grams of protein, which is protein has 4 calories per gram. So 13.5 plus 8 is 21.5. That leaves 3.5 grams unaccounted for on the nutrition facts label. Well, that's 3.5. Well, that's nearly 1 gram of carbs that could have been listed, but is not. So if you're having things like this, you might want to start adding 1 gram of carbs per serving size. Again, the manufacturers in America are allowed to hide those fats as listing as 0 if it's less than 1 gram. The second most common reason for a stall is undereating or not eating enough. Believe it or not, starving yourself is actually counterproductive to weight loss. And by starving yourself, I would classify that as eating consistently or on average much lower than your basal metabolic rate, which is defined by the rate in which you metabolize calories if you did nothing all day. If all you did was lay in bed, that would be the amount of calories that you would need to have in order to survive. As a 6'4" male who weighs about 225 pounds, my basal metabolic rate is 2,188.15 calories per day. If I would have ate consistently below that level, I might have entered into starvation mode. And at starvation mode, what the body does is it reels back one's metabolism down to a lower level in which it's clinging on to all the internal stored fat, sensing it's into a starvation society. Determine this as if a lack of energy in your diet, you may be entering into a starvation period. One of the things that had happened with a lot of the Atkins diet followers is that they would see dramatic things happening with their health and diet, such as dramatic hair loss and other problems with their skin, in the fact that their body ended up cannibalizing itself rather than losing the fat cells like it should have been. The third most common reason why someone might be in a weight loss stall is dehydration. As I've said in one of my previous videos, water is necessary for lipolysis, which is the process of breaking up the fat molecules into burning ATP for energy. The water helps regulate the enzymatic activity and flush the ketones out of the body. It also coincidentally keeps you regular, which means your digestive tract is moving and flushing out the other waste out of your body. For other benefits of water, see my Importance of Water video that I posted up on YouTube. The fourth most common reason is overeating. It is certainly possible to overeat on the low-carb diet. The rules of induction prescribe that eating liberally until satiated. This relies upon the eater to recognize when they are hungry and when they are not. Luckily, in low-carb diets, we have the benefit of the appetite suppression of the ketosis. This should help reducing in the grazing and mindless eating that got most of us into the situation before. It is, however, not licensed to eat whatever we want in whatever quantity we want. It is not an all-you-can-eat meat diet, because for me, the old 90 sitzer from the Great Outdoors fame could be a nightly affair. Is there a limit? Certainly there is, but I would be less likely to focus on some external limits, such as the calorie intake or the size of a meat portion, to more of an internal one. How am I feeling? Am I still hungry or not? The fifth most common reason is probably too little exercise. You've got your eating under control, you're eating the right things, however you're still not exercising, or you're exercising too little. What might have been sufficient for when you were starting out, maybe walking 30 minutes per day, may not be sufficient for you as you try to enter a new phase of the diet or the new phase of your weight loss journey. You may need to amp up what you've been doing in the past, or your body's reached a plateau of what you've been doing in the past and has gotten used to it and is actually more resistant to change based upon that activity level than it had been in the past. For the other benefits of exercise, see my other many videos on how to do exercise and the low carb diet. The sixth most common reason is stress. As one goes through the weight loss journey, they're more than likely going to have many periods of stressful times. For example, holiday periods in which you have additional job stress or kid stress or just simply busyness in one's life. These stressors can make your body release certain hormones like cortisol, which increases your body's sensitivity to insulin. That insulin is what the insulin hormone throughout your body makes your body more likely to store dietary fat as fat rather than as simply using it for energy. And the final reason that you may be seeing a stall is due to undiagnosed food allergies or food sensitivities. There are certain food sensitivities such as dairy, wheat and gluten, soy, and egg whites that you may find stalling your weight loss pattern. You may or may not even be aware of these sensitivities until you start increasing their consumption during the ongoing weight loss phase of the diet. As you increase your consumption level, the amount that you have been eating of things like cheese or the soy products, as they increase, your body may start reacting to them and start doing such things like water retention, bloating, allergies, and a whole host of other unpleasant symptoms. Some people feel these food allergies can aggravate a condition known as Candida overgrowth, which is basically yeast overgrowth. It is believed that a diet rich in high carbohydrate foods, combined with many years of occasional antibiotic use, have allowed yeast to build up in some of our digestive tracts, leading to an overgrowth level. This yeast overgrowth is more commonly found in women than I have in men. If you think you are experiencing one of these things, you might want to do some research online on many low-carb websites for what's called a spit test.